What's going on, guys? Alex back again. First video of 2019, and it is vinyl tag time. Yeah, if I keep looking over here, it's because my laptop's here and I've got my questions on there. So I apologize beforehand if I look over here a lot, because the questions I have on there. I did the vinyl tag for 2018. And that went really well. I could answer every single question, I think. Here, not so much. I think there is one question on here that I cannot answer, but we'll get to that when we get there. I said at the end of 2018 that I wanted to do more videos than just vinyl finds, so this is a great way to start with a vinyl tag, because I still have to talk about something I bought recently, but you guys will see. So let's get into this, starting off with question number 1, best find of 2018. And this was a no-brainer for me because I pretty much mentioned it in my highlights of 2018. My best find was Stevie Wonder's Talking Book, but a MoFi pressing of it. Sounds great, looks great. One of my favorite albums of all time, maybe second favorite album of all time. So this is without a doubt a big find. Was a big find for me, and I had to grab it. So that is, of course, that. Shout out to other VC members who deserve more viewers, is question 2. Now, I haven't really thought much about this one. I do have a few in mind. Of course, Bill over at the Vinylverse, I think he's just shy of 300 as I'm filming this. And, you know, he's a big jazz fan, he's a big soundtrack fan, he's a big Genesis fan. So, of course, he's going to have and he has a great collection. Every time I see one of his videos, I still see something new that catches my interest. Pretty Green Vinyl guy, Edwin, of course. Really great guy. I hardly hear anyone talking about him, at least the people I watch. I don't know how often he gets mentioned. He has a great collection as well. I was watching his full haul video, and he had loads of Japanese pressings. I think he had some original Smiths to show. It was just an incredible stuff. So, and actually there is one more I wanted to talk about who I cannot remember right now. Let me see if I can find the channel really quick, because I'll know it when I see it. I should have planned this out a bit more. I do apologize here, guys. Where is it? There it is. That's the one. Melinda Murphy. She's fairly new to the VC. I believe she started in this year, or maybe the end of 2018. But she already has almost 300 subs, and I definitely think she deserves a lot more than that. So I'll give a shout out to her, because she definitely deserves one. And there was another one. One more, give me a second here. I don't remember what I was. Yeah, there was one more, but I can't remember right now. If it comes to me, I'll mention it, but that is pretty much, they're the main 3 I wanted to give shout outs to, and then obviously the regulars who I'm always shouting out. So you got Jeff Campin, of course, you've got Tim at DJ Hannah at the Hot Introvert, Ambi, who I think does deserve more viewers. She doesn't make a lot of videos anymore, unfortunately. but I'm always talking to her on Facebook. She's a really nice person, so definitely go over there. I think actually she's really nice. Everyone in the VC that I've found has been really nice, but I've been talking to her a lot, so she's kind of a VC member I kind of connect with on a more personal level. Whereas with the VC, it's kind of just face to face, collection-wise. But let's keep moving on now, so I don't ramble on too much. What holes are you looking to fill in your collection? I really want to get complete on Stevie Wonder, of course. I would love to get complete on Supertramp. I know a lot of their albums are quite easy to find, so that's not a big ask, not for me. I'd love to get some more of my Grails. I must admit, I really didn't pick any up last year. Not my big Grails anyway, because all the Grails when I talk Grails, I'm talking about albums that have never been reissued and are out of print and really hard to find. So, and they've never had a reissue. So if something has a reissue, I don't consider it a Grail, but it's still on my an original of that might still be on my wants list, but I wouldn't consider it a Grail. Really weirdly, I know, but we'll forget about that and we'll keep moving on. I'd love to get more soundtracks, of course, more blues music in my collection. I would love to obtain more blues this year. I really would, just because blues is something I was really getting into at the end of 2018, and I think I like blues a bit more than jazz, so I would love to get a bit more blues, especially, so that's that. I'd love to get a few more David Bowie albums. There's a few that I'm missing that I really want, and I'm missing them, so I'm hoping to pick those up at a reasonable price. Obviously more hip hop. I'm always looking for hip hop stuff, and just anything that I don't have already by the artists that I listen to all the time. So, but that's just it. There's loads of holes I need to fill, but we'll forget about it and move on. And moving on, we have a cheap album that's really good. Now, obviously, you could mention loads of albums here, and I am very quickly going to change my mind about the album I had chosen. So give me 1 second here. Yeah. Alright. I did plan this out, and then originally I was going with Lionel Richie, Can't Slow Down, which is an album I see all the time. But it's not necessarily cheap when I find it now, because now that it's been reissued, obviously it pushes the price of the original up for dealers. So instead, I'm going with the original soundtrack by 10cc. Now, I love 10cc, and I think I'm only missing 2 albums from them, one of which I don't think's ever been on vinyl. One is a grail of mine, I would consider it. But this is a really good album that's cheap. Out of all the 10cc albums, this is the one you always find the most of, and that's always cheap. And obviously it has the big track, I'm Not In Love, on this album. But this whole album is just absolutely phenomenal, and I would really recommend this one. So that's my cheap album that's really good, but obviously there's loads that you could mention and loads that you could talk about. So there we go. Your favourite side project album. Now again, there's a few you could have mentioned. There's obviously Blind Faith, which is really good. There's a few hip hop ones that I wanted to mention, but I didn't have a physical copy of, so I said I'm not going to mention them. I'll mention them, but I won't talk about them. Obviously, Bad Meets Evil, which is Eminem and Royce da 5'9". You had, speaking of Royce as well, you had P Rhymes, or Prime, however they want to pronounce it, which is Royce and DJ Premier from Gangstar. there's a few, but the one I've decided to go with is actually one of the ones I think Steve Carlson mentioned in his vinyl tag, and that's Traveling Wilburys. Supergroup of galore, of course. You have Jeff Lynne, you have Roy Orbison, you have Tom Petty, you have George Harrison, and there's always one on here who I forget about who it is, but I know someone will tell me in the comments. But yeah, great album. This was a big surprise for me, album-wise, because it's one that everyone in the VC showed, so that's the only reason I really grabbed it, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's probably my, of all the ones I can show, that's probably my favourite side project album. A song from an artist or band that's uncharacteristic to their catalogue. This isn't really fair to mention this artist because he's always changed his style. But out of the albums I like from him, it's different, because this is an album I really like from this artist, but it's different to the rest of the albums that I like, which are, I guess, all somewhat similar. And of course the album is Let's Dance by David Bowie. I really like this album, obviously produced by Nile Rodgers. I know it's very dancey compared to the rest of his stuff. I don't like any, I'm not a big fan of a lot after this album, but I'm a big fan of a lot of stuff before, and a lot of the stuff from before is very rocky. So this is what I'm going with, because it's different to the catalogue from him that I generally tend to like. So there it is. The last album you purchased, which I did share on Facebook not too long ago, and that is Maroon 5's V. My first purchase of 2019, and probably one of my favourite albums of all time. I really, really love this album. Big Maps, Animals, I mean, Sugar, of course, all really big songs when they came out. Still really big now, but this was the last thing I purchased. I do like Maroon 5. I wish I had more of their stuff. Going back to question 3, excuse me. But again, anything by this band is all reissues, really, except the album they put out in 2017. But for me, Maroon 5 is a big band for me, one of my favorite modern favorites, and so it's nice to start building up on their catalogue for me. A great album with a bad cover. You might disagree with me on this one. I know there's probably worse album covers out there, and there's definitely worse album covers out there, but for me, out of everything in my collection, this is the one I consider to be the worst, and that is Suck It and See by Arctic Monkeys. Now, if you know me and you know my channel, you know Arctic Monkeys is my favourite band, but I really don't like the album cover for this one. I don't like how it just says the album name across the middle and that's all you see. I don't like that at all. But if you notice that on the rest of their albums, they all have something a bit of a design. I mean, obviously their first album's just a man smoking, but that's still a bit better of a cover than that, in my opinion. But out of all the albums that I own, this is probably the one that I would consider to be the worst, just because it's too plain for me, and really album covers for me is what really attracts me to the album. But this is one I picked up because I knew the name Arctic Monkeys, obviously. So, but again, it's an album that I love with the worst cover, which is a shame because I know there's worse covers out there, like I've been saying, but for me, I had to go with that one. What's next? A bad album with a cool cover. This isn't necessarily a bad album, it's just one that I don't like that much, but I picked it up mainly because of the cover. and that's Orange Juice's You Can't Hide Your Love Forever. You may love this album, you may love the band, but it's not really the type of thing I would genuinely pick up. I really only picked it up because I really liked the album cover. And the first thing we obviously see, if we don't know the band very well, is an album cover. But I like it because of the cover, so that's why I grabbed it, and that's why I've kept it. Because even though I don't like the music, I kept it for the cover. Maybe one day I'll get rid of it, and hopefully I can give it a few more listens and actually come to like it. You never know, but for now, that's the one I'm going with. And like I said, it's not necessarily that it's a bad album, because I don't like keeping bad albums in my collection. It's just that out of all the ones I've kept, it's the one that connects with me the least. There's still some good stuff on this album that I really love, but it's the album I like the least out of all the ones that I own. So that's why I had to go with that one. Not that it's a bad album or anything. A blues album. I don't have a lot of blues albums, as I said at the beginning, but I do have a few, and this is probably my favourite one that I've been listening to a lot recently, and that's King of the Delta Blues by Robert Johnson. I really like his stuff, I must admit. Really good acoustic blues. I mean, there's many artists I could have picked. I could have picked John Lee Hooker, I could have picked Gary Clark Jr., but no, I went with Robert Johnson just because out of anyone I watch who shows blues, I hardly hear anyone talk about Robert Johnson, which is a shame, because he influenced people like Eric Clapton, and it wasn't until the 60s when they started reissuing his stuff that's when he became really, really popular and started to influence people like Clapton and those types of people. So for that, I had to go with Robert Johnson. An earworm song, as you know, a song that always gets stuck in your head every time you hear it, and I had to go with Dancing Queen. You can click off the video now if you like, but every time I listen to Dancing Queen, the chorus always gets stuck in my head, and the lyrics always do, and the tune, and it's the only song that ever managed to stay stuck in my head for 3 days straight. And that was the first time I heard it, and I think I was 11 or 12 the first time I heard Dancing Queen, and it got stuck in my head for 3 days. And it's the only song ever to do that, so that's why I'm mentioning that. A historically important artist, of course, there's many, depends what kind of music you like. For me, with it, I like so many styles of music, I could have gone with anything, but I went with NWA, because hip-hop is my favourite genre. I know I shouldn't pick favourites, but hip-hop's my favourite, and I do think NWA really changed the direction hip-hop went, for sure, lyrically and with the beats that they used. And I really think this album changed the way that people look at hip-hop and listen to hip-hop and even dress when they look at the album cover. So for me, this album is historically important, and NWA are historically important, even though you could argue that there are more important artists out there like Miles Davis or Led Zeppelin or the Beatles, but for me, I was going to mention any of them really, but for me I had to go with a hip-hop artist just because, for personal reasons, but there we go. An album you own because of your parents. Again, there's a few, because my parents, if you know, I think I've told this before, my mum, really into Meatloaf, Cliff Richard, Rick Astley, Christopher, Shania Twain, Queen, and then my dad really into Depeche Mode, Japan, Human League, Jimi Hendrix, the Ramones, yeah. So you can kind of see the difference between my mum and my dad's tastes, and I kind of adopted parts of both of them. And because of my dad, I own a copy of Violator, because he played this album all the time when I was growing up. So I had to get a copy when the reissue was cheap at the end of 2017. Actually, I got this. So really glad I have this, and there it is. Violator by Depeche Mode. Whoops, they're falling over. Best dollar bin find. I don't go into dollar bins much, but I went into a store I'd never been in before. Went straight to the dollar bin and found a mint copy of Supertramp's Crisis What Crisis. The best thing I've ever found in a dollar bin, and I don't go in them that often, but it was perfectly mint. Cover and vinyl, both. So I grabbed it because well, I guess technically for £1. I'm not going to leave this behind, but there it is. That's what I'm considering my best dollar bin find, even though it wasn't I mean, it wasn't £1, but it was in the cheap bin, so I'm counting it. You might not want to count it, but I am, so there we go. Favourite double album. This one was kind of easy for me, because I've always said this is probably my favourite double album, and that's Arcade Fire, The Suburbs. There are other albums I loved way before this, but as soon as I listened to this album, Arcade Fire would just high up for me. So it's this album that made me a die-hard Arcade Fire fan, and it's just one that I grabbed, listened to, loved it, and so ever since then I've loved Arcade Fire, and this album has always been a favourite of mine since I grabbed it. Again, I haven't owned this that long, but it's already one of my favourite albums, so I love it, and it probably is my favourite double album just because it's so consistent from front to back, so that's why I have it. An album that you learned about from the VC in the last year. This again was a bit of a no-brainer, because even though there were a few, this was probably my favourite one, believe it or not. And this came from Back to the Vinyl, who doesn't make videos anymore. Again, unfortunately, because I really loved his videos. But this is an album that maybe you haven't heard of, but I did an unboxing of this on my channel. It's a Fujiya and Miyagi, Transparent Things. He showed this, did a needle drop on it, and I fell in love with it right away and did not hesitate to pre-order it. And it's indie rock, it's krautrock, it's electronic. It really works as an album, and it's just a very good album to put on and listen to, and it is really incredible. And I've even got a little note from a member of the band when I bought the album on Bandcamp. So there it is. That is my favourite album that I got with a VC member last year. Even though it was fairly hard to pick one, because there were quite a few I picked up because of VC members, but that was the one that I remember the most. Only pick it that I don't think I would have ever picked up if it wasn't for a VC member, so there is that one. Now we get to the question I can't answer. Show a 10-inch record, because I don't own any 10-inch records. So we'll move on, we'll skip that question and we'll move straight to question 18, which is show a 7-inch record. And for me it was another no-brainer. The most valuable record in my entire collection, and I have only ever shown this once, I think, or twice. But if you look up how much this goes for on Discogs, you might be surprised. And don't be alarmed, because I paid nowhere near what it lists as on Discogs. But for me, the 7-inch record I had to show is this Stevie Wonder EP. Now, I picked it up for the song Fingertips, which I didn't have at the time that I picked this up at. But it was when I wanted to own everything by Stevie Wonder. Anything with his name on it, I would grab it. So I picked up this 7-inch, and I instantly fell in love with it. I got it at a very good price as well, which I thought was incredible. And yeah, just look up what it goes for, and you might be quite surprised. But I'm not going to tell you, because I treasure this with my heart. If I had to if my collection was in a fire tomorrow, this is the one thing that I would save. Even though there's stuff in my collection I may never ever be able to get again. Ever, because it's stuff that's come all the way over from different countries and things like that, and stuff that's really rare. But this is the one thing I would save, just because it means a lot to me, it's sentimental, and it's a 7-inch. And a lot of people would not think that the most valuable album in my collection would be a 7-inch. But it is. Favourite album to fall asleep to, question 19. I've showed this album quite a few times, and this album still holds the record for my most viewed video on the channel. The Cigarettes After Sex album. I guess it kind of falls under with the Arctic Monkeys cover as well, as being another good album with a bad cover, because it just says the band name, which is also the album name in there, but I couldn't put it for both, so I put it for this one. And it's just so chilled, so ambient, that it's just if you're feeling tired and you need something to fall asleep to, this is a brilliant album. So this is the one I went with for this question, even though it could have come under a great album with a bad cover as well. I'm putting it here because it really is my favourite album to fall asleep to. And question 20, your favourite VC experience and or advice for people contemplating making videos. Experience wise is just meeting every single person, or talking to every single person who watches these videos. It's unbelievable. I can never get enough of talking to you guys. Anytime I see a comment, I just want to reply, because I love hearing your guys' thoughts and things like that. It gives me a joy to know that there are people who are actually out there watching my videos. And even if the same person comments on every single video, I'll still read your comment, because I'm always interested to know what you thought. And just talking to every single one of you who I talk to in the comment sections every single time I upload a video is just incredible. So yeah, you guys are my best experience, my favourite VC experience. And then advice for people contemplating making videos. I say do it. The VC is one of the kindest things you can be involved in. There may be people who will be jealous of you because you might have a great collection. You could have that, but there's always going to be haters out there. But at the same time, you're always going to have people who are there to support you. As I've mentioned, every single time I upload a video, it's the same people. Every so often there might be one new commenter, but it's mostly always the same people, and we're always conversing in the comments. And that's what I love, is it's always the regular people that you get along with, and then the haters you just ignore and you forget about them and you can move on. Everyone's going to get haters, okay? The most famous person in the world has haters. And the least famous person in the world, like someone who's a nobody but still has friends, still also has haters. You could be right in the middle, because you're on YouTube, you're on the internet. The whole world can see you if they choose to. And but you still are going to have haters, but you're going to have more people that care about you and will want to be your friend more often, a lot more often than you'll get that one person who'll hate you. And I also want to say as well, do not be afraid of if your subscriber count does not jump up right away, because people in the VC are so kind. They'll give you shout outs, they will help you out between each other. Everyone in the VC it's like a big family. If you're struggling to get those subscribers, there are people out there who will give you a shout out, and your subscribers may jump up straight away, or you could be one of the fastest growing channels in the VC ever because you could either have a shout out or you could just be naturally good on camera. But never be afraid if your subscriber count does not grow right away. I think I've been stuck on just over 130 subs for quite a while now, and I still enjoy every video I make and every comment I read. So never ever be afraid for your subscriber count to not grow as quickly as you were hoping it would. Because yeah, I've been in the VC since about the end of or midway through 2017, I guess I should say, and my subscriber count has stayed at really low numbers for a long time, and it wasn't until 2018 I hit 100 subs, and even then, in the next few months after that, I hit 130, and then just stayed there, and they've slowly grown, but it hasn't grown by a lot. And you can see I'm still smiling, I'm still enjoying every single video I make. So never be afraid of not getting subscribers at first, because it is always difficult, especially with how many channels that are out there in the VC. But there will always be someone with loads of subscribers who will discover your channel, randomly discover your channel, because I know that happened with me, and will give you a shout out, and people will check you out, and it will be the happiest moment of your life. And never be afraid to get hate either, because with every hater that makes a comment, there'll be 200, maybe 300 people in the VC who will love what you're doing. So it all depends on, I say, if you are contemplating making videos, just go for it, and if you start to feel like you're not enjoying it, or you feel like you're doing something wrong, you can always stop making videos and try and figure out what it is you're doing wrong, and or if you need advice about why you're not getting the views you want, or the subscribers you want, there'll always be someone out there who will happily answer one of your comments. A bigger YouTuber, someone with more subscribers in the VC, who will always be happy to answer your questions and give you advice on how to get more views and things like that. So never ever be afraid to ask around, and you never know what might happen, because the VC is one of the best experiences one of the best communities you could ever be a part of is the vinyl community. So never be afraid to make videos. And I think that's maybe the longest I've spent answering any of these questions, but with that done and out of the way, that is my vinyl tag for 2019. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for sticking around with me, and let's hope 2019 goes according to plan. So yeah, thanks to all my returning subscribers. If any of you out there are brand new, welcome to the channel, and I'll see you guys again hopefully very soon. Peace.